I have created a few new tasks since the previous part. First, I want to make it possible to set posts as public or private. And if they're private, only you or your followers should be able to find these. I also want to make it possible to post directly from the feed. Right now, I know that this doesn't work. So if I go into here, post something, then you can see that the body is missing. But on the profile page, it is working. So that's something I want to fix, and I want to combine this form and that functionality into a component so it's reusable. Then I want to prepare a few things for the deployment. I want to have different or separate settings file. I don't want to hard code the URLs, etc. So let's begin by making it possible to set posts as public or private. So if we then open up the models.py for the post app, then we can have it inside here somewhere. For example, we can say is private equals models.boolean field, default this to false. So then we have the database field for this, and we can update the database. So let's just go to the command line, stop the web server, and say python manage.py make migrations, and python manage.py migrate. Great. So now we can run the server again. So what we then need to think about is that somewhere here we should have a toggle to set if this is private or not. So maybe I should just have a check box here or similar. So let's open up the profile view.view. And if I then scroll up to the form, then you can see that we have it here. So below this text area, which is this one, we can have it. So then say create a label, and then input type checkbox, and we can create a v model for this and just call it is private. And then after the input here we can say private. Save, go back, and since we put the input field inside the label, you can actually just click here and don't necessarily need to click there. So now we can toggle this. Then we just need to create this variable down in the data array. So inside below the body we can say is private. Default is to be false. And then we need to make sure that when we are sending this information to the backend, here in this submit form, we are passing it on. So form data.append is private. This dot is private. And also when the upload or posting is finished, we can reset this. So this dot is private equals false. So then we can save that. And if I then open up the API.view, because we need to handle this in the backend as well. So in this post create, we have the form here where I just pass in the request post, so it should be okay there. We just need to fix this form. So open up forms.py in the post app, and then together with body we can say is private and save. So then we can test this, just refresh, open up the inspector so we can look for errors. First private post test, private and post. So there are no errors, nothing here either. So it looks like this was working. So now I just want to get this data so we can show here in the front end if this is private or not as well. So let's open up the serializers.py in the post app. And then here, where we get this information, we can just say is private and save. So then it should be available here. So if I go back to profile view, we are including the feed item, and that's the place we need to fix this. So open up feed item.view, and then we can just show it together with the posts here. So now we can just show it together with the likes, comments, and now we can have a text here if it's private or not. So we have the likes and the comments, and then at the end here you can say div v if post.isPrivate is private. Oops, remove that one. Then you can see here this is private, and that's not on any of these else, so it was working. Let me just copy these classes here as well, paste, and then these should be on the same line. So this div up here should also have the items center, save, and that looks better. Maybe we should have an icon as well, so let's go to hero icons, search for private. Yeah, that could work. And then in here, we paste it above the label or the text. And fix indentations. Go back here. Oops, these should be on the same line, of course. So let's just copy these classes as well. Paste it here on the div around these two. And then we have it there. Nice. I just want, there should be some space there, so if I add a span, there, nice. So now it's very easy to see if your posts are private or not. And I just noticed that I have these here, and that was because I want to make it possible to toggle a little modal here to report posts and similar. So that's something I need to add to the to-do list. Make it possible to delete a post, and make it possible to report a post. So that's two things I want to have here. Anyways, let's continue and make it this possible, because now we can set it as possible, and you can see if it's possible, private or public. So now I want to make sure that if someone who's not my friend search for this, they should not see it in the search. So I can see it here if I search now. Let me just see who my friends are. Oops. John and Stein. Okay, let's log out and log in. Sorry, I need to create a new user. Jake@gmail.com. Okay, user is registered. Please activate. I can't activate, but if I just go to this address, the user is now activated. So then I can use this, jake@gmail.com, and then the password I used, log in. Nice. So if I go here now, search for private, yes, then you can see I get this, but I shouldn't be able to do that because this is set as private. So then I can just close everything and open up api.py in the post app again. So then in the list here, where we get all of these posts, then you only get posts from your friends, so that's okay. Here, should we also do the same thing? Should we be able to go directly to a post which one of your friends hasn't posted? So let's copy this here paste it here so we can do a check. And then instead of saying it like this, we can say post and just move this up here. So now we filter it based on the user ID, and then we get it based on the primary key. Because here it doesn't matter. If you're a friend, then you get the post. If not, you can't. No matter what, if it's... Okay, yes, if it's public, you should get it anyways. But not in the list. Sorry. So we need to make it possible to add an OR here. So we need to import Q from Django DB models, from django.db.models import Q, which makes it possible to add a little bit more advanced query sets. So here Q, wrap it around there, or Q, maybe just one, yes, or is public equals false. That means that you now can go directly to a post, or it has to be one of your friends. Is public, maybe I set is private, of course. So if is private is false, then you can go directly to it if you have the address. Okay, but we also need to fix this when you go to someone's profile. Then you should only see the public posts. Let me just go back and refresh. Then you can see that now it's working here. I can't see this anymore. No, that was, sorry, private. Let me just fix the search first, and then we can fix the profile page. So find it down up here. Post list. No. Okay, I just want to add a few to-dos. So it's done. Fix public private in trends. Fix public private in search. Fix public private in profile view. And we can begin with this one. So then here, if you are visiting someone who you are not a friend to, so when I go in here, I shouldn't see this because I'm not a friend with Code with Stein. So then you can see here that I just automatically get all the posts based on the user I'm visiting. So here we also need to do this. Paste it. And then we can use the Q here as well. So copy this and replace the whole thing there. No, that's not correct. If you are in this list, then we should filter it like, okay, let me just type it out. If you're a friend, then see all posts. If you're not a friend, then only see public posts, like that. So that means that if I'm not in this list, that means that I should not be in there. Actually, maybe I can do it. Okay, let me just test something. If request.user in user.friends.all. Then we get the posts just like this. Else, then posts equals post.objects dot filter. We can copy this, but we also need to filter is private equals false. But we can make this a little bit better by moving this up here. And then we say if not request.user in friends.all, then we say posts.filter like that. So then I can just get rid of this. So how this works now is that first we get the user we are visiting, then we get all of the posts that that user has created. Then we check if you are not one of this user friends, then we filter it based on the post's privacy settings. So that means that this should now work, hopefully. So let's go back, refresh. Yes, so now I only see the public posts. Perfect. So then I can set this to done. Then we need to fix this in the trends as well. So at the bottom we have the get trends, but that only get the trends, so it should be up in the list here. So for the trends we only want to show the public posts. I don't think a private post should be a part of a trend, of course. So here we can just say .filter is private equals false, capital F of course. And that means that also in the generate trends file we should filter on this as well. So here when we get all of the posts from the database we should filter is private equals false. Like that. So then we only generate trends based on if it's public or not. So now it should be fixed there. So that means I can set this to done, and then it's the search. But where do I have the search? Okay, I have a separate app for that, I forgot. So here where we search, I think that I need to borrow some of the code here. So let me copy these lines, go back here again, paste it at the bottom. So then I can fix this up there, and I can make this list as well below there. So now I have a list of the people you are friend with or your user ID. And then below here I can say, I'm having a bit of a hard time thinking about what's the right to do here and not. So I only want to get the posts that are public or the posts that are private and the people you are friend with. So maybe first I should take all of the posts that filter is private equals false. That means that these are public posts. But then I also want to get all of the posts that your friends has created, because they do not need to be public. So let me just move this line up as well. This will now override that, so we can't have anything of that. So private posts, then I get everyone that you or your friends has created and just filter it on if the body contains it. So private posts, and then just to clean this up a little bit, I can have one filter like that and one filter like that. Let me just save and see that there are no errors. Let me try to search for Stein. Yes, it looks like it's working still. So I want to combine these two. And I think I want to do that using the queue again. So from django.db.models import queue. So then I can say queue on that one. So now I get all of these, or if this filter kicks in. So then add a new queue there and paste it in. Then I can remove that comment, remove this one. So that looks okay. Let me refresh, search for Stein. That looks okay. If I search for private, then I don't get that post anymore. So now it is working there. Let me just see if I can have this on separate lines so it's a little bit cleaner. Stein. Yes, so now the search is working as well. So now I think I can set this to done. I think I fixed it everywhere now, because here we get only the one that your friends are. Yes. So feel free to test this out a little bit and add a comment below if it doesn't work, or if you find somewhere that I have forgotten to do the correct thing. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so then I will continue to the next one. Before I continue, I just want to say thanks to all of my patrons. If you too want to support me, you will find a link in the description below, which is make it possible to post correctly from the feed, not only your profile. Combine this into a component. So instead of actually fixing it in the feed, I want to just start on this to make a component for this. So let me just close the backend folder, and then inside the components folder, create a new file called feedform.view template form. And then inside the profile view where this is working, I can add this inside this div. So here I can say feed form and don't pass in anything yet. Then we just need to import this down in the script. Here where we import the other components, import feedform from components/feedform.view and register it here in the list of components. So if I now go to my profile, then you can see here form. Nice. So then we can start moving this code into that component. So if I scroll up again, I can take this whole thing, this form, just cut right out of there, go back here and paste it, then fix the indentation, and you can see that I get a bunch of errors which I need to fix now. So we can begin with the submit form function or method. So if I just scroll down and then I find this methods here, then I should have one called submit form. So if I take the whole thing, remove it from this file, go back to feed form, create a script tag, export default, and paste, no sorry, before I paste I need to add the methods, like that. So then I have it there. There you can see that I'm referencing a whole bunch of things here. You can take one and one part. So let me go up here again. I know that these three fields are connected, so body is private and URL. So I need to add the data array here. Data return. Now we paste these three in there. If I save now, you can see that it looks like all of the errors here are gone. But this will not work. As you can see here, first of all, I'm referencing the posts list and this user. So the user is something I want to pass in as a parameter, so or prop. So we need to add a props list at the top here. You can pass in user, which is an object. And we also need to pass in the posts list. Posts list, array, what's called in JavaScript. Maybe this should use curly braces and not brackets. So now I expect to get 2 properties as well. So let's save this file now, go back to profile view, and up here where we use the feed form, we can say vbind user. So now this user here is what the property is called there, and this user is referring to the user from the data array. Then we need to do the same thing with these posts here. We can actually move these to separate lines. Vbind posts, and save. So then I can refresh here, test this. First post from Jake, post, whoops. Axios is not defined. Okay, so let's import it. Import Axios from Axios. Save, refresh. First from Jake, post. Okay, so it was posted there. This incremented automatically, and it was added here automatically. And if I refresh, it's still there. Nice. So that means that now this is working in the profile view, but the task was to make it possible to work in the feed as well. So I can just copy these 4 lines and open up the feed view. And up here I can replace this whole form like that. Here I don't have a user, so that will not work. If I just set this to null, let me see if that will work. But we have the posts, so then we need to import this. Import feed form from /component/feed form, and add it down here in the list. So feed form, and save. So then here I can remove these here. The submit form doesn't need that anymore. So refresh, go to the feed, test from the feed post. Yes, it was added there, but now I couldn't increment the posts count. Okay, but that is okay. So let me just see where I use the user here. It's just here. So down here I can just say if this.user. Then we check if that variable is defined. So let's try one more time. Post. Yes. Submit one more time. Now it's added there, and there are no errors. Perfect. Save or check and check. Okay, so now I want to make it possible to prepare a little bit for deployment. So I want to have 2 separate settings files. So now I can close the front end again, open up the backend, find away backend and settings.py. So for example here I refer to localhost, which is obviously my local computer. So let's just copy everything, create a new file, and save it as, settings.prod.py. So then you can see here that we have something called allowed hosts. So here I need to add the address that we're going to use in the backend. I'm going to use a fake domain called way.com, and also api.way.com for the backend. So in here I need to add api.way.com. So I will show you later in the next part when we are going to deploy, if it's the next part, but in the deployment part, how you can fake a domain and let your computer think that you have this. So then it's added there, but we also need to have it down here in the course allowed. Here we add way.com, which is the address for the front end. Way.com, also there, the front end address. So I know that I'm going to use a different database in the backend. I'm going to use PostgreSQL, but I won't change this before we're actually going to deploy it and I'm setting that up. Then I need to add one more variable here, website URL, and then we just pass in this. Actually, here is it http://. Remember HTTPS if you want to use SSL certificates. And if I copy this now and go to settings.py, we can add it here as well. And here is a 127.0.0.1.8.000, which is the address that you have here. So now that that is done, we have a separate settings file. The reason I want to do this is that if I search for this address, then you can see that I have hard-coded this, for example, in the api.py, and that's not very smart. So here I want to inject what we get from here, based on the environment we are in. So we need to make it possible to use the settings file. So at the top here we can say from django.conf import settings. Scroll down again, and then here I can remove all of this and say settings.website URL. So Django knows that the settings file we are using, for example, here we are using this file, which is the settings.py, but in production we will use settingsprod, and Django will fix this for us automatically and find this variable or static constant in there and then inject it there. So then we need to do this in the models.py as well, so that we get the correct images. So we need to import it here as well, from django.conf import settings, and scroll down and find this here. Then we can just settings.website URL plus this one. This one will be added automatically. Yes, that should be correct. And the same thing in this models.py. From django.conf import settings. Remove it from there, so it's fixed for the posts as well. Settings.website URL. So now it should be fixed there. So the backend should be more or less ready for deploying now. And if I go into here, you can see that we set default URL for the backend here in the front end as well. So here I am really not sure how we can do this based on the environment. So I need to find out how I can set this in an environment file or similar. So if I search now, view 3 environment file. Let's see if that is working or something I can use. Okay, yes. Okay, let's try to do this. Only loaded in specific mode. Let's say that inside the folder, not source, but in the way front end, we create a new file, .env. And then here is a website URL or API URL equals. And then we just add it like that, http://127.0.0.1.8.000. Let's try to use this inside the main.js here and console log it. Loading. Okay, so let's just try to see if this works out of the box. API URL. Go back, refresh. Process is not defined. Okay. It was too good to be true. So how do I get access to that one? Let me just Google this error. Uncaught, process is not defined. Okay, first of all, I just redid this a little bit and say, go to vite.js.dev and see that you use import meta env and then the variable name. So import meta env API URL, which is defined there, but it is undefined. So if I go here, you can see here on the top that it's undefined. So there's probably one thing that I am missing somewhere. Okay, so now I got it working. When I read one more time here, you actually need to use vite as a prefix on the static names here. So in the env file, I have vite API URL, and then in main.js I can load it like this. So that means that I can replace this now, go back and save, and if I go here and refresh, everything is still working. So now I want to have one specific file for production. So I think that let me just console log this again. URL, let me just do one more test. So I have this file here. I can replace this with way.com. So if I go back to the browser now, you can see that I get a lot of errors, but the URL there is correct. Then I create one more file, .env.local, and then here I say vite API URL equals, it should be :/ and paste the local address there instead. So then it was supposed to work. Let me try to log in. cvs@gmail.com. Yes, now it is working. So that means that when I'm locally now and use this here command npm run dev, then this will be loaded, but later when we are running for production, this file will be used instead, and then this file now will be dynamic. Nice. So that means that now I think everything should be okay and prepared for deployment. So I can set this to done. Actually, let me just uncheck that one because I want to do one more thing. If I stop here now and say pip freeze, then we will get a list of the packages that we have installed locally. This is something I want to install on the live server as well. So to get this list into a file, we can say pip freeze and then into a file called requirements.txt ls. So then you can see that we have a new file here, cat requirements. Nice. So now it will be very easy to install the same software on the server as we have here. So I will come back to this in one of the upcoming parts, so it will be easier to understand then. But now I can set this to done. So that was actually also it for this part of the series. In the next part I will make these two tasks, and I will also see if there are any more small things that I can do before we are deploying this to DigitalOcean. So if you have any questions about today's code, feel free to leave a comment below and I will answer as soon as I can. See you in the next video.